They tell you every story has its fixed points. The moments that were supposedly inevitable. Me getting my Hogwarts letter. A giant kicking down the door of a forgotten shack. A dusty hat shouting a name that was meant to seal my fate. But what if the story you think you know about me is a lie? What if the most important choice wasn't the one I made, but the one I rejected? What if the weapon that could kill Voldemort wasn't forged in the hallowed halls of Hogwarts, but in the cold isolation of a school an ocean away? I was supposed to be the boy who lived, guided by Dumbledore and burdened by prophecy. But this is the story of how I slipped through the cracks, learned a different set of rules, and became the one thing the Dark Lord could never see coming. This is how I went from being the wizarding world's worst kept secret to its most dangerous ghost. It began with a no. A small, quiet word that shattered a plan decades in the making. The scene is just as you've probably heard: the miserable shack, the storm, the pounding on the door. Rubeus Hagrid arrived, a mountain of a man with a crushed cake and a letter that reeked of destiny. He talked of Hogwarts, of magic, of my legacy. But this time, the Dursleys' fear spilled over into something uglier. In their panic, they didn't just rant about freaks, they talked about a war. A dark wizard. The way my parents really died. They painted magic not as a world of wonder, but as the murder weapon that made me an orphan. For an 11-year-old boy who'd known nothing but a cupboard and contempt, this wasn't a golden ticket. It was a summons. A return to the scene of the crime. The word Hogwarts was now linked to the violence that left this scar on my forehead. So I looked at this giant, a representative of the world that took everything, and for the first time, I made a choice based purely on survival. I said no. Hagrid was flawed. Miles away, a tremor must have run through the web Dumbledore had so carefully woven. I was out of play. But the magic in me couldn't be contained. It lashed out, wild and untamed, and the Dursleys were desperate. As Dumbledore scrambled, another letter arrived. This one was sealed with a Gordian knot. It talked of a school called Ilvermorny. This letter was different. It didn't promise destiny. It promised distance. It offered an education, control, and a whole ocean between me and the man who butchered my family. For the Dursleys, shipping me to America was a problem solved. For me, it wasn't an escape to adventure. It was an escape, period. An escape from Privet Drive, from the expectations, and from the shadow of Lord Voldemort. I said yes. And with that, a ripple started across the Atlantic, one that would grow into a tidal wave. There was no cheerful trip on the Hogwarts Express. My journey was a solitary one, crossing an ocean to a new continent and a magical culture that didn't know my name. Ilvermorny wasn't some fairy-tale castle, it was a granite fortress on Mount Greylog, hidden in a constant shroud of mist. The entrance was flanked by statues of its founders, the witch Isolde Sayer and her Nomai husband, James Stewart, a silent testament to a philosophy Voldemort would find disgusting. Inside, there was no sorting hat. The other first years and I were led into a circular chamber and told to stand, one by one, on a mosaic of a Gordian knot in the center of the floor. The silence was unnerving. I stepped onto the knot and looked up at the four huge, wooden carvings that guarded the room: the horned serpent for the mind, the wampus for the body, the pukwudgie for the heart, and the thunderbird for the soul. It wasn't a public spectacle, it was a silent appraisal. As I stood there, the crystal in the horned serpent's forehead glowed, recognizing a sharp, survivalist mind. Then, the wampus growled, a deep rumble acknowledging the fighter in me, the boy who'd already survived a killing curse. Being chosen by two houses was rare, and the choice fell to me. But before I could decide, the thunderbird carving across the room beat its wings, a sound like rolling thunder that shook the hall. It soared beyond my mind and body, straight to my soul, a soul that didn't crave knowledge or strength, but freedom. The adventurer. I wasn't the boy who lived here. I was just a kid who wanted out of the cage. I chose Thunderbird. Afterward, another Ilvermorny tradition made me a ghost. Instead of buying a personal wand at 11, we were given school-issued wands, which we had to leave behind every summer. It was a rule born from Rappaport's law, a harsh measure to keep the magical and non-magical worlds separate. For me, it meant my unique magical signature stayed off the grid for years, invisible to anyone searching for the Potter boy. Dressed in the blue and cranberry robes of my new school, I was no longer defined by my scar. I was just another face in the crowd. At Hogwarts, my education would have been a chaotic mess of substitute teachers and yearly battles for my life. At Ilvermorny, it was just an education. The school was founded by Isolde Sayre, a descendant of Salazar Slytherin who rejected his pure-blood obsession, and her Nomai husband. Here, the very idea of blood purity was treated like a dead language from the old world. I wasn't special because of who my parents were. I was judged on what I could do. That changed everything. I studied alongside kids from Nomai families and from Native American tribes with their own traditions of wandless magic. The curriculum was broader, more practical. As a thunderbird, I was pushed toward powerful elemental magic, wilderness survival, and exploration. Most importantly, my defense against the dark arts education was consistent and competent. I wasn't learning to survive by luck, I was being trained to fight by design. But the real transformation happened during the summers. Back with the Dursleys, Rappaport's law forbade me from carrying a wand until I was 17. For a boy whose accidental magic was a ticking time bomb, this restriction became a crucible. At Hogwarts, my power would have been channeled into a wand. Here, I had no outlet. I was forced to learn control from the inside out. I learned to feel my magic, to suppress it, to shape it without an instrument. I learned to command the storm within. My friendships were different, too. They weren't built around a shared destiny. They were my rivals and my teammates in Quadpot, the explosive American answer to Quidditch. I even found a grudging respect for the Pukwudgies, the goblin-like creatures who acted as the school's security, paid mercenaries who offered loyalty on their own terms, a far cry from the indentured house elves of Britain. I grew up self-reliant, cynical, and armed with a kind of magic nobody in the old country had seen in generations. Lord Voldemort is a creature of habit. I see that now. His power, his ambition, his entire worldview, it's all built on the crumbling foundation of British wizarding tradition. He understands blood purity, Hogwarts houses, and ancient family lines. He spent his life preparing for a hero born from that system, a Gryffindor champion to be played like a pawn by Dumbledore. He never, ever prepared for an Ilvermorny educated me. By leaving the country, I didn't just dodge Dumbledore, I vanished from Voldemort's reality. The prophecy sitting in the Department of Mysteries gathered dust, a relic of a future that never happened. Voldemort's return was crippled. Without me at Hogwarts, Quirrell never got the Philosopher's Stone. The Dark Lord remained a parasite, his plans in ruins. There was no Triwizard Tournament to hijack, no graveyard ritual, because I wasn't there. It must have taken him years longer to find a new path. He would have searched Britain for any trace of Harry Potter and found nothing. He probably concluded I was dead, the prophecy a fluke. He would have turned his focus back to what he knew, conquering the British ministry, a snake eating its own tail. Meanwhile, I was becoming a threat his ideology couldn't even compute. I learned to think in strategy, not just courage. I saw magic as a tool, not a birthright. Thanks to Ilvermorny's pragmatic and inclusive roots, I even saw the strategic value in Nomai technology and tactics, an idea Voldemort would have found laughable. I don't see purebloods and mudbloods. I see threats and assets, and I was trained by a school that values results over heritage. When rumors of a powerful, unknown wizard from America finally filtered back to him, Voldemort would have dismissed them. An American? From a school started by a Nomai sympathizer? Irrelevant. Arrogance is Voldemort's fatal flaw, and I became everything he underestimated. A threat you can't comprehend is a threat you can never defeat. The end didn't come as a last stand in a beloved school. It came as an invasion. At 17, no longer bound by Rappaport's law, I returned to Britain. I didn't come alone. I brought a team of Ilvermorny graduates, Wampus warriors bred for combat, horned serpent strategists who deconstruct spells like clockwork, and fellow thunderbirds who could call down the storm. We were a modern magical Black Ops unit facing an army of fanatics. The Death Eaters were ready for the old spells, the dueling styles they'd known for decades. They weren't ready for a wizard who could conjure a localized thunderstorm, a skill honed from years of wandless practice. They weren't ready for fighters who moved with cold, tactical precision. The fight was short and brutal. I didn't waste time debating love and choice with Voldemort. I outfought him. I overpowered him. I used a deep knowledge of magical creatures to turn Voldemort's own monsters against him. My victory wasn't about destiny. It was about superior training and a better strategy. I dismantled his army with ruthless efficiency, leaving the Dark Lord exposed and alone. In the end, the boy who ran from his destiny fulfilled it, not by dying, but by proving that Voldemort's entire world was already dead. If you enjoyed this look into what could have been, hit the like button and subscribe for more what-if scenarios. Let us know in the comments what piece of lore you think we should fracture next. By trading Hogwarts for Ilvermorny, I didn't just change schools. I changed the entire war. Free from the weight of prophecy and the decay of the old world, I was forged into something new, a pragmatist, a survivor, a strategist. I proved that the greatest weapon against an ideology of hate isn't a chosen one, it's evolution. I showed the world that Voldemort wasn't just evil. He was obsolete. It leaves you wondering, what other paths, what other schools, might have changed everything?